For the first time, something unique and beautiful has arrived, and this is the all-new 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe, which is breaking ground with a revolutionary design that is very different and very unique, and in many ways, it's a game changer. Hi everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. Guess what? I am at the product launch for 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. Now, I've already talked about this car in the past, but today I want to give you a full driver's review and engineer's review of this vehicle. In fact, I'm going to tell you 7 reasons why this thing is a game changer. But let me start off with my usual audit and quality check of this Hyundai Santa Fe, which is built in the US in the Alabama factory for the gasoline version. And then later on, when they have a hybrid, that will come from their Korean factory. So potentially 2 different sources of manufacturing. But this one, once again, is built in the US, and this is early production still, but the gaps are actually really good. 3.2 millimeter there, 3.3 millimeter here is very flat. Everything lines up even right at the edge. You can tell some manufacturers just can't get that right, but in the Hyundai, all line up well. Gap between front fender and front door is 3.2. 3.1 and maybe 3.1. So the gaps are actually better than, let's say, in a RAV4 or the Highlander that I measured recently. And in terms of everything being lined up, you can tell all the creases line up really well. And even the gas cap, which is my sort of a thing that I do nowadays because it's really hard to get the gas cap to line up. That's pretty well flush, nothing sticking out. And once again, all the lines line up as well. So looks good in terms of plastic pieces here as well. No gaps there. The paint actually matches. And the glossy plastic here also looks good. Although I would have not designed a vehicle with a glossy plastic on the side of the car like this, that's asking for trouble. The minute you rub something like a shopping cart, it's going to scratch. Rest of the car here also looks good. Do I say that it's as well built as a Highlander, which is one of its main competitors? Because I'm going to be comparing this to Highlander quite a bit throughout this video. I would say in terms of the exterior panels and exterior quality, it's equivalent, and actually the gap's a little bit better than the Highlander because the Highlander was between 3.5 to 4 millimeter. And I would say it's about the same as a RAV4, once again, in terms of the exterior panel alignment and panel fit. Now let's go take a look inside and see how good the quality is. So now I'm inside the Hyundai Santa Fe. Let's do a quick check on the fit and finish and also check for the material quality. So I do my usual punch test here to see if I can hear any kind of squeaks or rattles, and so far everything feels really tight. The parts fits are actually really good, better than most other Japanese brands that I come across, including Honda and maybe, dare I say, compared to Toyota. So for example, some Japanese brands, even Toyota, Honda, have some hard plastic here, but this is actually softer plastic. So this is a kind of fake stitching here, but everything lines up. It's hard to line up here, and the fit looks really good. The components and the material finish looks excellent. They look very high-end, almost to the point where they seem to rival what you might see, let's say, in the Genesis. So even though people still question a little bit about quality of Hyundais, if you're just asking me as an engineer, checking for all the parts fit, this is an incredible fit and finish. You won't find anything better, I think, at least in terms of how the parts fit and the selection of the parts and materials. Of course, this doesn't mean long-term reliability is the same as what I see in front of me, so that's always a bit of a question. We'll have to just wait and see how that goes. But the material selection and the overall fit and finish is absolutely first class, better than, I would say, 95% of cars out there. And once again, it looks as good as Genesis models that we actually often drive. So the interior looks good. I'm going to talk more about some cool features in here, including a UV sanitization system here. So now let me get into the 7 reasons why I feel this thing is a truly game changer. So there are many reasons to love the Hyundai Santa Fe, all new for 2024. But the first reason I think is simply this gorgeous design. No matter how you look at it, from front or back, from our side, It is absolutely beautiful and very different from anything else. We spent a fair amount of time talking to the chief designer of this vehicle, and they said that yes, it doesn't look like Hyundai, but it doesn't matter. They just want to build the best looking, most unique, rugged looking SUV in the market, and that's exactly what they did. There is a kind of a Hyundai H motif here, so it's all built in, and there's some elements of Hyundai things in general, but the overall design is so far from the previous Santa Fe, and for that matter from anything else in the market in this price range, that this thing stand out. I think this kind of rugged, square-looking design is obviously trendy right now. You know, people say it looks a little bit like a Land Rover Defender, maybe even some elements of the Mercedes G-Wagon. Not sure if I would go that far, but it definitely does look rugged. It looks ready to go off-roading, and lots of square panels, square here, almost straight here, as well as back end, which is very long and comes straight down this way. So a little bit, again, Land Rover Defender look along here as well, pretty rugged coming out. This one has a glossy black. The XRT has a different design. And then the back might be the most controversial. Still rectangular, square design, bold Santa Fe. And this is the only one that maybe I'm not too crazy about. There's actually two lamps here, one on the actual hatch, one on the bottom part of the bumper here. And while it looks okay, it's growing on me, it does look a little bit awkward. We're so used to seeing these tail lamps come up a little bit higher, but the designer said they wanted to put all the elements as low as possible to maximize the space and the feel of a space. And so there was a reason for that, but I think the rear will take a bit of a getting used to. Regardless, on the road, people noticed this one. I just happened to see this being driven in Vancouver just last week, and I was driving close to it, and I noticed it right away because it's so noticeable. And I also noticed other people looking at it and giving thumbs up and stuff. So if nothing else, in terms of design, Santa Fe it stands out among all the mid-size 3-row or 2-row SUVs out there that tend to look very similar. Hyundai came up with something that's unique and beautiful at the same time. And you know what? I think it's a real standout. So now I'm back inside a Santa Fe, and I'm going to give you my second reason why I believe this car is a game changer. And you know what? I don't even have to tell you what that is. You can see it for yourself. The quality of the material, the design itself, the gorgeous selection of materials, and a great fit and finish, which I mentioned earlier. Double 12.3 inches instrumentation system, a digital cluster, and you get a beautiful design. Two also pads here as well for wireless charging. And if you just look at it quickly, you might think this is something that costs a lot more, like something that might cost twice as much. And that's my second point, really. It's a game changer because the interior design is out of this world for a car in this price range. As I mentioned, I'm doing a bit of a comparison with the Highlander, so I'll kind of flash the Highlander interior right now. If you look at it, nothing wrong with the Highlander interior. It's business-like and it's functional. But this thing looks absolutely gorgeous and looks way more expensive in terms of both design and material selection than what you might see in Highlander, or for that matter, pretty well any other competitors out there. If you look at a Honda Pilot or Passport, if you look at Nissan Murano, Mitsubishi Outlander, those are some of the Japanese, Asian competitors, and none of them look as good as this one. It almost has a bit of a Land Rover Defender look inside, just like outside. This steering wheel design looks a little bit like that. Even here is two-tone finish. You get another aluminum finish here, beautiful aluminum finish look here as well. Even door handle, it looks flush in terms of design. This is not a wood, but it kind of supposed to look like a wood, I guess, but it's actually beautiful, and it goes really well with this white interior, which would be really hard to keep clean, but it looks great. You get all of the various touch panel here, and also some knobs, and even the quality of the plastic right to the edges here looks fantastic. Even the actual ceiling has almost Alcantara feel to it. It's not Alcantara, but it's got a bit of a velvety feel to it. And it's just, you know what, really well designed interior. They really upped the notch or two to make this vehicle look very special, and that's my second reason. The third point I want to talk about is that this Santa Fe has a lot of cool features that are not available in many other competitors. One of them is really different and unique, and that is the UV sterilization compartment. Someone put a toy there right now, but you can put your phone or some other device in there, and then you push the button, and then in 10 minutes it actually uses UVC to sterilize. It's not quite a medical grade sterilization, but it eliminates 99% of germs. So once again, if you're just someone who wants to clean something, this was obviously important during the COVID time. That's when this car was designed, but I would just throw my phone or wallet or something or my key and clean it up and then take it out 10 minutes later. So that's really cool. I also like the fact that there's 2 wireless charging pad, so two people can put their phone. They don't have to share one wireless charging pad. And this open space is way better than in some other vehicles where you have to kind of slide in or put it far away and you can't reach it. This is right close to my hand here, so very easy to access. Nice and big as well, so even the biggest phone will actually work in here. And then this thing here actually opens both from the front as well as from the back. So that's a cool design. I know some other automakers have a center console that opens this way or this way. I think Lexus has that, but this one is front or back. So that allows the back passenger to put something in and take it out as well. I also, even though 12.3 inches screen are not uncommon anymore, having both of them together in single design like this makes it look really cool, because it looks like a one long touch panel instead of 2 separate one. And the design wise, I think is really well done. Now there's one more cool things I want to show you outside as well. On the outside, there's another cool thing which have never been shown on any other car, and this is the grip handle. You can actually put your hand here, and then it's still kind of awkward, but climb up to the top and either pick up something from that's on the roof rack or just maybe even clean the car. And that's something that was not available on anything else. This does close, and you can actually lock it here so that people or some kids can't play with it. So there's a little lock here and it's lockable. So I think that's a really cool design. It also looks well integrated with the rest of the interior, all blacked out. Yeah, and then one more thing is that in the back here, they kind of designed this vehicle from the back forward. What I mean by that is, according to the chief designer, they wanted this space here to be a living space, a working space, a fun space. And so they made sure that this size or opening is as large as possible, that you can go flat all the way through. You can see sort of flat seating here, so that you can actually put the camping bed, for example, and make it into a small party room if you want, or sit over here and do a tailgate party. The idea was to both to maximize life and maximize fun from the rear end, and that's one of the key themes of this vehicle. And here's one more cool trick. If you press this button here, then the front driver's seat goes into kind of like a reclining mode, and you know what, you can just sit and relax. Basically, you get a little bit of a thigh support comes out, the seat reclines, and you get a first class cabin kind of feel. You find this on a few other Hyundai and Genesis models as well, but you get it in the Santa Fe. So now I've got the Santa Fe on the road, and we are very fortunate because we're driving on a very twisty road. So it's a really good place to test out the handling, the feel of the Santa Fe and so forth. And my first impression, and this is the very first time I'm driving the 2024 Santa Fe, is that it feels very premium, it's very comfortable, agile and stable. So in terms of steering feel, like most Hyundai, for that matter, most Toyota product, it is a little bit on the light side. It is not a sort of a heavier steering, like a sporty steering feel at all, but it is very predictable. I have a really good sense of the road conditions underneath, because I get sufficient road feel through the steering to my hand. I know exactly which way the tires are pointed, and I can feel a little bit of the surface of the road through the steering. So I really like the general communication through the steering, and that would be my fourth point, is that compared to many other vehicles in this class, this one has a really agile character, has a good steering feel, although I would like to have it a little bit heavier. And I think this kind of agile character and sort of very crisp feel is unique to this Santa Fe. So for example, if I were to compare it to, let's say, Highlander from Toyota, the Highlander has even more numb steering. They tend to have a little bit of a lighter feel. So this one I think feels a little bit more sportier or agile, but not by much. And certainly if you compare to the smaller RAV4, this one feels definitely a little bit more planted, because the RAV4 is quite numb in terms of steering feel. What about compared to some of the Honda model, Passport or Pilot? They both feel similar. I would say they have a slightly better steering feel. They have a bit more heft to the steering mechanism and so forth. And I think overall they feel a little bit sportier than this one. So I think the Santa Fe fits nicely between the Honda and the Toyota to provide sort of a sweet spot for the steering feel. In terms of the powertrain and in terms of the engine though, this one has the carried over 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, good for 277 horsepower and 311 pound-foot of torque. I really like the engine. It feels pretty peppy. Acceleration is brisk. Perhaps it's not the fastest SUV in the market, but plenty fast. I'm really comfortable driving this on this mountainous, twisty road, and when I need to go up and down the hill, absolutely no problem with this turbo. Really smooth, almost doesn't feel like a Turbo 4. And so from that perspective, if I were to compare it to the Highlander, which now has a new 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, I would say this one feels a little bit smoother overall, less like a Turbo 4, more like a 6-cylinder engine in terms of the basic attribute and character of the actual engine. And the transmission, which is 8-speed automatic, also extremely smooth. You can barely tell that it's shifting between the gears and so forth. So the transmission and the engine together, which consists of the chassis and the powertrain, I think is first class. And my sixth point is an important one, and that is this vehicle feels like a Genesis, feels like a Lexus. It's a very premium feel, thanks to a smooth engine, a good ride, predictable ride, also very quiet, very balanced. When you're driving this vehicle, I mean, it feels like a car that's $70,000, $80,000 versus $40,000, $50,000. I think it has definitely a kind of upscale Genesis feel to it, partly because of the interior design as well. It has a really cool interior, but just the overall NVH, noise, vibrations, and harshness is first class. I would say the Highlander is also very good. It is a little bit noisier, though, maybe just a tad. But I think maybe the Highlander has a slightly better suspension system. I feel that one has a little bit more of a stable feel. This one is a little bit on the softer side. What about compared to Honda? I think Honda maybe have the best overall chassis design. They tend to have a really good chassis engineers. So their ride is very steady, firm, but also very forgiving. So if I were to do a quick comparison here, I would say the Honda has the best suspension, followed by this one if you want comfort and maximum refinement, and then the Highlander if you want to have a little bit of a flat cornering feel, which is what I think the Highlander has. So those are some of the comparisons I have, but again, the overall, in terms of premium feel, the Santa Fe is at the top. It doesn't matter which one you compare it to. You can compare it to all the mid-size SUVs, the Pilot, the Passport, the Highlander, maybe even the Grand Highlander, although that's much bigger, Mitsubishi Outlander, Nissan Murano, and even if you compare to some of the American models and so forth, there's no question that when you're driving this vehicle, it feels upscale. It feels like an expensive car. It performs like one, and whoever is in the passenger side will not think this is affordable, mid-level priced SUV. It's far from it. So I think that's the beauty of this Santa Fe. It's giving you a feel of a much more expensive vehicle at a very reasonable package with a unique design and a solid powertrain and extremely comfortable and smooth ride. So those are some of my general comments in terms of the driving side. Okay, so now I switched to a different Santa Fe. This one is called the XRT. This is kind of off-road oriented version of the Santa Fe. As I mentioned earlier, Santa Fe comes in two powertrain, hybrid and non-hybrid. The hybrid is built in Korea, the non-hybrid is built in the US, and comes in a number of different trims, but primarily the trims are divided between passenger type vehicle and off-road type vehicle. Although generally speaking the two are pretty similar. This one here, the XRT, has a different suspension and tuning and so forth, but also the main difference is the tire. This one has the Continental Terrain Contact 18-inch all-terrain tires, so not a true off-road tires, but good enough for sort of a medium to serious off-roading. Compared to the calligraphy we were driving earlier, and all the other 21-inch Santa Fe's have Pirelli Scorpion tires, which are actually high-performance all-season tires that are often in the Porsche Cayenne and Porsche Macan. So I was surprised to see that in the Hyundai Santa Fe. So even though the tires and suspensions are a bit different, it doesn't translate into a huge amount of difference in terms of driving feel. Obviously, the XRT that I'm driving now is a little bit softer in feel because of the tires, and not as agile around the twisty corners here. So that's the main difference. Otherwise, the engine is the same, so powertrain feels exactly the same, and a general feel is pretty similar and not as much difference as you think. So the 7 things I want to talk about in terms of what makes Santa Fe a bit of a game changer is the fact that it is a good value. Even though it is priced similarly to the predecessor and also similar to many of its competitors, the main reason why I think it has a lot more value is because it's priced like a Highlander, it's priced like a Mitsubishi Outlander, but it feels like a much more expensive car. So I think it has kind of grown to be one notch above or one class above in terms of the premium feel, but the pricing remains competitive. So like most Hyundai product, you're getting more features and more value for the money, and that is perhaps one of the most important things when it comes to deciding and choosing 2 or 3 row SUV. In the case of Santa Fe, you still get a 3-row SUV, but even if you just use it as a 2-row, it's got plenty of space, and overall the feel is really good. So as I begin to conclude my feel about the Santa Fe, what can I say? Well, if you wanted ultimate long-term reliability and durability, I'm still not sure how this particular Hyundai product will fare against, let's say, a Toyota Highlander or let's say a Honda Pilot or Passport, because those models still have an upper hand in terms of long-term reliability. And Hyundai has improved a lot, no question, no doubt in my mind. The manufacturing quality is right up there now. But in terms of reliability over 5 to 10 years, still a little bit of a tricky situation because Hyundai, I think, it does have a bit more problems compared to Toyota product. But if you compare to, let's say, Nissan or North American brands in general, I think the Hyundai actually have a bit of upper hand in terms of reliability and manufacturing qualities. Dollar for dollar, feature for feature, and especially styling for styling, I think the Santa Fe carves a very unique place in the market. I think it's a game changer in terms of styling, in terms of concept, in terms of overall feel, and what you get based on the price you pay. And therefore, I think the competitors just needs to watch out, because Hyundai is ever so much getting closer and closer to Toyota's quality, and it offers better design and offers more features and more room and practicality as well. Anyhow, I hope this was helpful for you as you think about the Santa Fe. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and I would appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so yet, would you kindly subscribe as well. Well, until next time, I'm signing off for now.